Education around the globe has traditionally prepared the learners for the job market. The Learning to Live Together program invites people to reinvent and reimagine education, allowing children to develop to their fullest potential intellectually, relationally, emotionally, and most importantly, spiritually.
I think that is really important because in today education focuses so much on, let's say, raw knowledge. Like people are learning how to use computers or how to calculate, how to read, how to write. But first of all, we are human beings, and yes, we have brain, and of course we need all this knowledge and information, but we also have another spiritual part of ourselves, and we need to learn how to express it without offending or hurting other human beings, and how to be first human being.
El manual Aprender a Vivir Juntos es un programa en el que las personas aprendemos a valorar la diversidad de la humanidad que somos. Con el programa Aprender a Vivir Juntos intentamos recuperar y redimensionar aquello que nos hace personas y que nos convierte en seres humanos.
The Learning to Live Together very much is about how we can help our children overcome the divides in our society, the polarized identities, the hate that gets spread over many generations. How do we overcome this and really, despite the challenges of the differences we have, work together?
The program first, it gives space and opportunity for children to learn about children's rights and to exercise their rights.
I learned that different religions have different types of praying and different types of churches. I felt like I was in a whole new world because it was something new I haven't experienced before, I haven't been before, and I haven't seen before.
Aquí nos enseñaron a respetar, nos enseñaron a compartir, ayudar a los otros que no tienen.
For me, I found that a Learning to Live Together program was coming in to fill a gap in terms of the learning process. You know, the way you move from motivation, you make people explore, you make people dialogue. Then the next level, of course, after dialogue, there is the issues about also reflection and self-discovery.
We have been organizing facilitators training workshops for the educators from the institutions and from the schools that want to incorporate the Learning to Live Together into their programs, into the curriculum such as sports or citizenship education, and use the Learning to Live Together as a program to create transformative learning experiences.
Part of the work on Learning to Live Together is to empower educators. Educators in many different spaces lack the skills, the understanding and the knowledge to really support our children to unlearn biases and prejudices and the violence that they learned in their communities.
Learning to Live Together provides tools, provides ways to allow for safe space, but at the same time it also allows the teacher herself or himself or the trainer to reflect on their own practices, their own prejudices, their own biases.
I truly believe that the LTLT, whether as a facilitator or as a participant, transforms the way you see the world and the way you interact with others.
Because LT workshop is about transforming at the end of the day, and it begins with the individual itself.
In order to ensure the implementation and dissemination of the Learning to Live Together program around the world in different languages and with different expertise, we have trained 52 trainers who are in charge of training facilitators who will be working with children for the implementation of the Learning to Live Together.
Pues en El Salvador el programa Aprendiendo a Vivir Juntos ha sido implementado en las más diversas situaciones, con docentes, con gente joven, con niños y niñas y también con líderes religiosos.
So I try to implement it not just with children coming from different national religion background and different countries, but also with the children with special needs that are having issues to be accepted in communities and children who are unfortunately without parent care. So we also try to involve these categories of children and to use LTLT as a really good tool to teach people in our community that we can all should live together.
Where we worked not only with children, we also worked with parents. So we conducted a few programs and sessions for children
For me, the idea of starting with children is not a new idea. But what has been significant in the way that I see myself and the work that I do because of LTLT has been also responding to the needs of the community in a way that I hadn't thought about it before.
The knowledge and skill that I get from Learning to Live Together programs and really enrich me as a trainer and as a program designer and in the other programs. And I do use the approaches and the learning activity from here in the different programs.
We want to empower children so they feel encouraged to start projects, ideas that actually address the issues in the local context, supporting to transform the local realities.
We have seen youth changing because through LTLT program they create peace and harmony environment in their societies. And the most important role that the youth play is to be the change. They become the change they want to see.
And I can see now most of my peers who we passed through the program, most of them now they're becoming the changing agent. Most of them now they're becoming the activists. Most of them they are doing different initiatives in different places. I think the program itself for the children, it gives the children the opportunity and space for children to exercise their right, but also to be part of the solution within the community.
So we had a lot of positive changes over there in terms that people become more open, that we overcome a lot of these stereotypes and prejudices in community, that children got involved into this program. And what we really like and we're really proud of is that all those children start doing something in their communities after the program. They stay friends and they continue building these bridges of friendship, trust, understanding, and they continue our work in their communities.
Arigatou International decided already in 2002 that we needed to do something special for and with children. So we brought together people from different faith traditions, from the secular world, humanists, from the UN world, UNICEF and UNESCO, and we started to elaborate together what is it we want to communicate, what is it we want to do in order to promote ethics education for children.
The Arigatou International Interfaith Council on Ethics Education for Children was in charge of the conceptualization of the idea of the Learning to Live Together program. So we involved children themselves, their families, educators in different parts of the world. So we ran pilot workshops in different locations, and then with those inputs that we received, we incorporated in the first draft that later was reviewed again through practical experience and then finalized by the Interfaith Council on Ethics Education for Children.
Learning Together has been a very important resource. And when I say Learning to Live Together, it's not just what is there in this volume, this rich volume of materials we put together, but in the process and in the way that we have brought together the best minds and the wonderful communities of the world to think about the possibility of creating a peaceful world, a world that is fit for all our children.
The fact that Learning to Live Together was endorsed by UNESCO and UNICEF, who participated actively in its formulation, this is very important for partners to feel comfortable using it.
Learning to Live Together is an excellent tool for us to bring communities together, particularly through interaction with young people.
The interfaith methodology that is holistic, that the Learning to Live Together LTLT brings, has been instrumental, has been very useful for grassroots communities.
Entonces, para nosotros, educación ética fue una manera, un instrumento de ir fortaleciéndonos como grupos, como red de organizaciones interreligiosas.
And Learning to Live Together provides us with a resource that helps us deal with the poverty of heart and mind, so that we transform the way people think and the way people behave regarding poverty.
Yo creo que ABJ ha tenido unos impactos extraordinarios por ejemplo, en la reducción del involucramiento de niños, niñas y gente joven en grupos delincuenciales y pandillas, como también en diferentes espacios de intercambio, construcción de relaciones positivas, asignación de diferentes tareas a nivel comunitario, etc.
So the program, it fosters the ethical values which are very important and necessary for children to know from their younger age. I think that's the essence of the program, that it shows us children to offer something to the community.
The impact has been and is much, much greater than we actually could imagine when we started with this little tiny program.